What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it today, go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down 0.92%, nothing too crazy, so a little bit better than a lot of growth and speculative stocks out there. 26.13 the high, 25.60 the low, and just shy of around 34 million shares being traded. So rather on the kind of lower side, unfortunately. But when it comes down to kind of where the volume did come from, a lot of it was actual institutions trading. So I'll kind of go over that in a second. But getting right to it, we did have some data that came out first thing, and it was in line with expectations. So we did have a lot of flash data, composite manufacturing services, like I said, all coming in relatively in line with the forecast. Michigan consumer sentiment came in at 56.4, forecast of 54. None of this really moved the broader market. The market was actually fairly optimistic. Then it kind of turned a little bit bearish as the day kind of went on. So there was a lot of increased tensions now with Canada. And a lot of that is because of Canadians PM, Mark Carney, unfortunately, and a lot of his comments. But it's just kind of moving from now Greenland to Canada. So markets kind of getting tired of this in reality, but there was a couple other things that did come out. So midway throughout the day, which does coincide with the broader market kind of pulling back a little bit, we did have JPM and also Bank of America really saying that don't anticipate any cut for next week, which in general I think was very widely understood a couple of weeks ago, because I think even last week the likelihood of a cut was like 4%. Right now there's a 2.8% likelihood. So I think in general everyone kind of understood that, but a couple firms just outright saying it, that I think really did cause a little bit of fear. A couple other things did come out that most likely attributed to kind of the volatility today. One was the yen spiking, obviously against the American dollar. And historically, this actually is a green light for hedge funds to deleverage and to kind of move to risk off. So this is why we did see a lot of transactions occurring on the dark pool that were obviously hedge funds kind of rebalancing and selling out. So very interesting kind of stuff. Some big ones on the dark pool on the side note: 10.9 million, 5.2, 3.7, 2.7. So those were some of the big ones. And then this one, I feel like it's going to be a hot topic possibly over this weekend, but I feel like we just kind of got out of it. But another shutdown might be coming next week. So that I think might bring back some PTSD. And a lot of big Fed names did state way back in November that if we have another shutdown, like this will be a massive deal for the market in a negative way. So in general, I feel like a lot of institutions might be rebalancing and kind of just, again, mitigating risk because of this. Like I said at the beginning though, I think all in all, SoFi did do fairly okay, despite putting out any news or any SEC filings. There was a SEC filing, a Form 4, that was submitted after hours yesterday though, which did signal that Kelly sold roughly around 9,400 shares. It is transaction code S, meaning it was a straight up sell. It was not for tax purposes. It was planned based on Rule 10b5-1. That's how they were able to do it outside of kind of the blackout period. But definitely we see Kelly and Jason sell quite a lot, so rather unfortunate, but still 9,400 shares, not that big of a deal in my opinion. But aside from that though, there was one thing that kind of came out, was posted by SoFi Insider, or I think they changed their name, but beside the point. Just said that good that SoFi didn't acquire BTGO. And so I actually conveniently brought this up because SoFi was listed as a co-manager in the IPO of this. I didn't see this rumor about them potentially acquiring this. I think just generally people assumed one of the two issuances that SoFi recently did was for acquisition purposes. Unfortunately, nothing has been officially named. A lot of kind of Easter eggs here and there, but nothing officially named. But I feel like this IPO definitely didn't turn out too great. And I think that would have been a pretty good image for SoFi if this was to kind of continue to move higher. But bad timing. Market's appetite for risk obviously wasn't on the table today, so it is what it is. So I just wanted to kind of bring this up as a side note. Shorts did return 398,000 shares today. 9.28% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 115 million shares overall being shorted. So overall, they were pretty quiet today because they didn't really do that much. You can kind of see from the get-go they weren't really doing anything throughout the day. Yesterday, on a side note, they were fairly active, especially during the after hours. So something to keep in mind with today closing at 25.85. So that does mean that the 25.50 and below strike prices are in the money. So quickly showing you that we have 2,000 at the 25.50, 2,000 at the 25. So don't anticipate any gamma squeeze or anything like that going into next week. The implied move did again lower based on the options, so 7.41% based on their upcoming earnings, and so ultimately that works out to be like $1.91 in either direction. So that's what the options are kind of signaling might be coming post earnings. So again, if you've been kind of hedging, or let's say you are optimistic buying straight out calls, let me know what you're kind of doing with SoFi through their earnings. But these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So regrettably, you did have a lot of selling. As I mentioned in my video yesterday, it feels like this flip-flops every single day. So institutions don't know anything more than you or I. They're just very much speculating on what is coming next. And like I said throughout this video, there's a lot of things kind of stuck in limbo potentially that could really affect next week. But some of the big ones were 30.8 million, 5.02, 4.3, 3.3, 2.3, and so forth. All of these were sells. So algorithmic trading was kind of keeping SoFi in limbo, but again, we did have relatively low volume, so something just to kind of keep in mind. With it closing at 25.85, it did close right below this S1, so 25.92. Followed by 26.46 is going to be the next strong target points, and then 25.59 is going to be the next strong support, and it kind of bounced off of that general like range because 25.60 was the low. Aside from all of that fun stuff, quickly popping back right over here. So on the actual chart, it regrettably was showing some signs that it was going to test that 10-day moving average. Unfortunately, it didn't even come close to that today, so just a lot of negativity. Based on this, it does signal that potentially consolidation might be coming next. So just again, don't shoot the messenger. This is kind of what the data is signaling. On a positive note though, looking at stochastic RSI, it is relatively oversold. So good piece of news. If it does come out, then you could see a nice push higher. So let's say over the weekend, we see Canada and the States kiss and make up and all the other fun jazz, and let's say, I don't know, there isn't any government shutdown or something comes out associated to that. You never know. That could be a pretty good positive going into next week. Aside from that, there really wasn't that much in articles, no new analyst ratings. So it's just at the mercy of the broader market. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. If you did anything, let me know. The only thing I did was, actually I didn't do anything. I just let a lot of my options kind of expire worthless. So I did sell, I think it was 25, 24, and $22 strike prices, selling puts. I know I've mentioned this time and time again. If you like a stock, you're going to buy it regardless. Consider selling a put. It gets you some pretty easy money, in my opinion. So definitely consider researching that over the weekend. One final thing, if you're looking for some solid buy signals, pop over to my Patreon and put up daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.